It's good always to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
You're making things make a lot more sense. We appreciate it very much. Andy, back to you. Hey everybody, welcome. We're going to be talking today about a subject that it seems a lot of people are considering as an option, strategic default. Now that's the decision by a borrower, mostly these days a mortgage holder, to stop making payments on a debt despite having the money, the ability to make the payments. Walking away, some have called it. And here's something that surprised us. This is from the Pew Research Center. 59% of people believe it's wrong to walk away from a mortgage, but 19% of those polls said strategic default is acceptable. 17% think it would be okay if the circumstances were warranted. I think if the circumstances was warranted, that would be if it's you involved in it. And Mac Englett is an attorney with the KEL law firm. Strategic default, one of his specialties at your firm. Good to see you. Always good to have you here. Even on your website, I looked at your website, you have a special section about it. I mean, I guess it is something that a lot of people consider these days, isn't it?
Well, it is, because if you look at the Tampa Bay area, almost half of the people that own a home in the Tampa Bay area are what we call underwater. Yeah. So they owe more on that property than it's currently worth. So it applies to a huge group of people. So, and again, I want to stress, we're talking about people here who can pay their mortgage, and they just look at it as an investment, and they go, it's not worth paying it anymore. That's really the approach most of these people who come to us take. You know, they've worked the numbers, and they've seen that in order for the value to return to what they paid for their home, it's going to take 15, maybe in some cases 20 years. In addition to that, they're paying almost twice as much to own that property. They can go down the street and rent that property for half of what it costs to own it. So they calculate the numbers and say to themselves, wow, I'm going to lose tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases over this long period of time.
I've been doing some homework on this, and one of the things I read, it was suggested, if you decide you want to pursue this, don't take the keys to the bank and say, here it is, I'm out of here. There's a process. You need to do this the right way.
That's probably the worst thing you can do, actually. What you need to do, and that's why they call it strategic default. Right. If you don't develop a strategy, it's just a default.
Yeah.
So what we usually do is we'll sit down with them and we develop a strategy before they default, because we have an asset protection attorney in our law firm that will sit down with them and go over ways and things we can do to protect their assets before they default, and then come up with a strategy, because ultimately we're probably going to wind up in litigation on the foreclosure, and we needed to develop some defenses to that foreclosure, and that is what puts the pressure on the lender to negotiate a settlement to the case, which is the ultimate goal.
When you say negotiate a settlement, what are we talking about here?
Well, look, if someone's $100,000 in the hole on a property, it's very reasonable to expect to owe 50% of that, or maybe 20%. And all of that's going to be dependent upon the person's financial situation, and then the ability the bank may have to collect on their assets. So if you do a really good job on the asset protection portion, then the bank looks at it and says, wow, I'm not even going to be able to collect on this person, and they're going to give you a much better settlement offer.
And Matt, one of the things I think that you just brought up, and I think it's kind of important to bring up, I think the picture a lot of people have that may have seen, and I saw a really long piece on 60 Minutes a while back about this, that when you say walk away, it's not as though you will be free of this debt. No. I mean, that's not what is going to happen more than likely, right?
Not if you have assets. If you have money or assets, no. And I tell every client this, you're not going to walk away from this and not owe the bank anything. It's more likely than not that you are going to be responsible for a portion of that loss. Now, that doesn't mean you have to come up with all the money at once. Oftentimes, they'll agree to a payback plan over a long period of time to recoup some of their money. But certainly, if you have money or assets, you're going to be responsible for a portion of that deficiency.
And another consequence of this, your credit is likely to take a hit.
True. Oh, it is going to take a hit. It is going to take a hit. Now, you can do things to repair your credit, and usually within 6 months to a year, you can be back to a good credit score, but you're not going to be able to qualify for another mortgage from anywhere from 2 to 4 years.
So what happens? So you're going to have to find, so you're not going to stay in the place you're living? True.
You may, it depends. You may stay in it until we resolve the case. Typically, the banks want you to stay in the house. They don't want you to vacate it. They want you to stay in it and maintain it, and then we want to get that property back to the bank in really good condition. That's going to help our case. What you don't want to do is vacate the property and not do the upkeep on it and all that. That's not good.
So at some point, though, you will vacate the property
absolutely.
in this process. So then, if you can't get a loan to buy something else, you become a renter?
You're going to have to rent. Absolutely. And some people, what they will do on a strategic default is they will actually purchase another home before they default.
Really?
Yes, because they have good credit at that point. So they can actually go out and get a loan on a new property, and right now the prices are very low. So they'll go buy a new property at a very low price, and then they'll default on the one that they're in currently.
I would imagine, help me here, I mean, we're going to have to go to a break, but I would imagine that the toughest part of this whole process is sitting down with somebody across the desk from them and telling them this is an okay option, you're not doing something that's morally wrong, because a lot of people are going to have a problem. I know a lot of people watching this show right now are saying that's the wrong thing to do because you made a contract.
Yeah, you know, I don't advise people on the morality of it. What I tell, they come to me asking what they can do legally speaking, and that's what I tell them they can do, legally speaking. I usually don't get into the morality of it. I leave that up to them, because there are some people who will come in, we'll give them a strategy, they'll look at it and say, you know what, I'm just not going to do it, and they'll walk, they won't do it. And then we have other people that will do it, but I leave that up to them. I don't force people into making this decision.
Take a break, come back. More with Matt Englett talking about strategic default. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back. We're talking with Matt Englett from KEL Law Firm about strategic default. We have an email from Mike from Auburndale, which I have a feeling a lot of people watching this show feel the same way. I think it's reprehensible for this even to be talked about. No one twisted these homeowners' arms to purchase the home at the inflated price. What happened to ethics and morals? And I think you were saying it sort of yourself. You're not in the business of ethics and morals on this point, right? You're advising these people if they decide they want to do something like
Look,
this.
if people need representation in this area, then they're going to get it.
Right.
But one thing I would point out to Mike and every other viewer who has a problem with this, in many states throughout the country, if you default on a home mortgage, the banks can't even pursue you personally. The way it's supposed to work is banks lend money on a property, so that money they lent is secured by the property. If the homeowner defaults, the bank gets the property back, sells it, and gets the money. That's the way it's supposed to work. And in many states, you can't sue a homeowner if they default on their mortgage, but in Florida you can.
Really?
So, yeah,
so Florida is different than most states.
It is different, and that's why people have to hire people at law firms like ours to help minimize their loss. But if these people were in California or Nevada or Arizona, they could just walk away from it and the bank couldn't pursue them personally.
I found this off of the PR Newswire, and this is from a fellow by the name of David Wentink, and he is president of Strategic Default Information. That's an online firm that helps homeowners through the default process. He says, for the first time, homeowners are beginning to think like business people, crunching the numbers to see if it makes sense to stay in the house or default based on financial facts rather than emotions. Numbers don't lie. He goes on to say, many have decided it's better to lose the house than keep throwing money into a sinkhole. Whether or not you believe it's the right thing to do or not, it's just something that it's a sign of what the economic times that we're in right now.
It is, and if you think about it, I mean, Wall Street has done this. Real estate investors have always done this. Anytime they get into a property and it no longer makes financial sense to keep it, because they consider it part of their investment portfolio.
Right.
They look to get out of it and minimize their loss. Business people have been doing this for years, but when the average person wants to do it, everyone wants to make it a moral issue. And I don't know that it should be a moral issue, but again, that's for other people to decide.
We got an email from Lisa from Brandon. I don't like the idea, but really everyone else has been bailed out. Wall Street, car companies, et cetera, et cetera. Why not the homeowner? And she brings up a good point.
She does. She brings up a real good point.
Let's keep going. Chris from Tampa, if more people do this, it will just take longer for the economy to turn around. The glut of homes on the market is enormous. Never mind if another rash of homes becomes available. It is just selfish. And we read some information. I can't even find this was the one. I think this is the Fannie Mae article and something from Moody's regarding people who've bought at the peak and find themselves underwater. Those who bought at the peak are going to have to wait until the year 2024 for prices to rebound. I mean, we are in a situation that we've never seen before. I don't even think Depression time we saw anything like this.
It is. It's a very unique time, and people are really thinking about the mortgage payment they make each and every month, and they're saying to themselves, is this a good investment for me long term? Because I know I'm going to have to keep the property until 2024.
Yeah. But we have a little time left, and I want to go back and talk about the process and what you would recommend. If anybody's thinking about doing this, you need to have some help in getting it done. Yes?
Certainly. I mean, my firm does offer this. As you know, we're a full-service law firm, so we do a lot of different things. This is one thing we offer, but there are certainly a lot of qualified lawyers out there who are doing this type of work. And I would urge people to go sit down and have a consultation with them and talk to them about it. Because it may or may not be a good option for you. You may crunch the numbers and decide it's not really worth it. So you definitely need to have a professional sit down with you and go over everything.
And definitely look at the long-term consequences of this, because this is not a quick fix thing and you're free and clear of that debt.
It's not, and you have to weigh that when you look at it. How much money am I going to save, and what's the negative side to it?
Okay. Hey, Matt, thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Matt Englett from the KEL Law Firm with us today. Thanks to all of you for sharing your opinions. Great emails today. Thank you. Tomorrow.